on the 24th of July. The roll call, please show that Dr. Clayton is not here, but the rest of us are. And if you will stand with me and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jumping off the agenda just a little bit, Dr. Mellon would like to share some sad news.
Yes. Board, we received confirmation here recently about the death of one of our students. Was a 7th grader at River Valley Middle School, Karina Mowry. She was on her way to Florida on a vacation with some friends, family friends, and unfortunately there was a very tragic accident and she succumbed to her injuries. And so it always puts in perspective. We have a lot of things that go on in each and everyone's lives, but whenever this happens to anyone, it's very sad, and particularly to a student. Karina was thought of very highly. She was someone that helped out students throughout River Valley Middle School, especially students with greater challenges than her own. So she had a big heart, and it's a big loss. So if you don't mind, Board, if we could just have a moment of silence, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Board.
Thank you. First on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion, please?
I'd like to motion to pull item 6 from the consent agenda.
We have a motion to pull the consent agenda, item 6 from the consent agenda. Do I have a second? Hearing no second, motion fails. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as it stands?
Motion to approve agenda as it stands.
Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, Nancy. Thank you. She was quietly. Yes. Any comments or discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Do we have any public comments on agenda items tonight?
No.
No. Okay. It brings us to our board planning, goals and strategies, and we're going to have an operations update.
Board, I would just like to give you a little bit of an update from a facilities perspective. As you know, this has been a very busy several months as we've been undergoing several major renovation projects, and I thought I would just give you a little bit of an update on how things are going from a facilities perspective. First of all, at North Haven Elementary, that project is nearly complete. As you know, we were enclosing all of the classrooms in the main building. We also did an addition of 8 classrooms. The picture you see is a picture of a new classroom in the new addition. Obviously, the furniture needs to be placed, and an interactive board needs to be placed on the wall, but that gives you an idea of what it looks like. Cabinetry will also be installed, and so we're in really good shape. Within the next week, we anticipate that everything will be done. So very impressed with the quality of the work at North Haven Elementary, and proud of what that's going to look like and for our students and staff. Charlestown Middle School, big project, again, enclosing the open concepts. What you see in the top picture is really a hallway that has we've been installing the special vinyl flooring, so it's a school color theme, And so that is what a hallway will look like. The lockers haven't been placed yet, but all new lockers installed. And again, there's no locker bay at the building like there used to be. The lockers will be installed around the building, so that'll spread out those students around the building, which will be good for safety purposes. The large room that you see is a picture of what used to be the library. Now, remember, it was a 2-story library that's been enclosed and is going to be a project-based learning environment, and that's just one shot of it. So at Charlestown Middle School, the upstairs will be complete by the time school starts. And so the 6th graders will start their year upstairs, and everything should be complete by the time school begins. Science labs have been totally reworked on the bottom floor. They're going to be close to being completed because they're a combined classroom and a lab environment. Very neat. And then, of course, the new media center and the old media centers should be fully enclosed and operational, so that we have to still go through the building and enclose on the lower level the rest of the classrooms, but that'll be done in phases. And so we are on schedule, and the whole project should be complete definitely by Christmas time. So that's something to look forward to. River Valley Middle School. At River Valley, you can see one picture of the flooring in the cafeteria. All the flooring is being replaced at River Valley Middle School. Lighting, obviously brand new lighting throughout. You see a picture in the left-hand corner of a classroom in the building and what that'll look like. Still much work to do. There, and on the right-hand lower side, that is what the old locker bay used to look like, and that is now the new media center. And so it's really designed with a lot of opportunities for students to get in and do interactive kind of work. There's a classroom off of that media center that classes can come down and utilize as well. So again, the upstairs at River Valley Middle School is designed to have all of our 6th graders. We are in pretty good shape there to be ready for that to start the year. And the downstairs science lab, same thing. We're slightly behind because we're still waiting on some cabinetry, I believe, in those science labs. And then the downstairs will be phased also in terms of enclosing those rooms. And again, the same time frame is to be complete in December. These are big projects, a lot of square footage, a lot of work being done, but good progress is being made there. At the Feder Professional Learning Center, remember that building was gifted to us by the Feder family. And so we have just started the internal renovation of that. We have some community partners that are looking to engage with us there to be part of that learning center. There'll be 2 conferencing areas in the building, different sizes. When we have our steering committee meeting for Fort NGL, we have about 125 or 30 people there. There's no building during the day that can accommodate that number. So there'll be a room there that will accommodate 200 people and another room that will accommodate, I believe, about 60. And so that building will also be made available to any of our community partners. So we have about 400 partners in our school system, and so if some of those partners have an interest in utilizing that facility for different meetings or conferences, we'll certainly look to help accommodate them. The external part of the renovation, in cooperation with the City of Jeffersonville, we are going to upgrade the exterior along the perimeter of the building. But what we just found out recently, the 10th Street renovation project is really moving quickly, which is a good thing. So we're going to need to accelerate our timeline a little bit because they need us to tear down the current fencing because they're going to come in and start doing some work. So just so you know, we'll probably be coming back to you here in the near future. We'll have to do some temporary fencing for a while, but we'll also be moving forward on the external part of that renovation, which we promised to do with the city. This picture of Parkwood is what one side of the building used to look like, and the bottom picture is what it looks like now. What that is, it's a rain garden. We have a particular problem with it's a very flat footprint, so it's hard to drain water away from that site. So I think this was pretty innovative, is what you see on the bottom is a rain garden, so as water comes in, it actually goes down deeper into the soil, and then it spreads out from there. So it's pretty innovative in a way to try to get more water dispersed and do it in a way where the vegetation is actually helping. So environmentally, I think that was a very innovative idea. So that shows a before picture and then now a current picture there. Bridgepoint, we promised that we would, there was one pod of classrooms where the carpeting just was not what it should have been, and so we've replaced the carpeting at Bridgepoint in one pod area, which is several classrooms. Thomas Jefferson, we had done a flooring project there, but what we then found out almost a year ago was that the cafeteria floor needed to be leveled, because the flooring that we were putting down, there was a level issue over the years, and so we had to come down and actually put a level of concrete, a thin layer of concrete over there before we could put any flooring on it. So this is all bond dollars that you've approved in the past. We just had to delay that project temporarily because I think we wanted to have it done last spring break, and because they found out the flooring was not perfectly level, we had to come in and replace that and repair that. Then this picture, I'm sorry, but just so you know, at New Washington Middle High, we're going to the academy concept, as you know, at all three high schools. And so at New Washington Middle High, what's going to be pretty innovative is this is the media center. And I will bring you better pictures here, but we have actually opened up a wall that goes directly into a classroom off the media center. So if I'm an English teacher and I want to come bring my kids down and I want them to be able to break out in each of the 4 major academies, the classroom on the other side of that plastic will be designed with glass and so on, so the teacher can facilitate the whole class instruction initially, and then students in that English class can break out by academy into separate meeting rooms. Very innovative concept, and that way the teacher can still facilitate the classroom. The students can be working privately in each of their academy areas on their content that's relevant to them, and the teacher can provide the supervision needed. So I'm looking forward to showing you better pictures down the road, but that just was something I think they're pretty excited about at New Washington Middle High. And then the Jeff High Band Room, there's been a big renovation of that facility. And if you remember, POSCO, a new steel company right here in the port, they had provided a grant to our school system, but predominantly for the Jeffersonville High School band program. So when they came in, they gave a gift. And that gift was designed to help improve the band room at Jeff High. So there's a lot more work to do in the next several weeks, but that just gives you a sense of redesign of that room to make it more functional and bring it up to a higher level of quality. And then again, we thank our partner in POSCO who helped us do that. And then safety-wise, I know that's something that's heavily on our minds. I just want you to know that we had formed a district safety tactic team that's already met several times. We've updated our safety plans for our district. Gary Green has been a key leader, but also April Holder, and there are a lot of other school safety specialists that serve our schools that have helped with this process. We're adding a new Washington School Resource Officer. We have one up there already, but there was a young lady that met with me last year, and she brought petitions with her, and she said, Dr. Millen, is there a way that we could get another resource officer? And I asked her why, and she said, you know, we're so removed from Charlestown and Jeffersonville that if something were to happen, you know, we may not have an officer in each building. And so I met with Sheriff Knoll, and we worked out an arrangement so that we could add another officer up there. So we actually have 3 officers from Clark County Sheriff's Department. We're actually only paying for 1 of those 3 officers. Clark County is paying for the other 2. We have great relationships with the city of Jeff, as you know. with 4 school resource officers, and we also have one from the city of Charlestown. So we have great relationships there. We have 8 total school resource officers that are serving our students, and we're very proud of them, and they've done a great job for us. This summer, we hosted active shooter drills. So we worked with our law enforcement officials, and we said that our schools can be a site for you to come in and practice. And what was great about that, they also educated educators about the process, and then educators had the opportunity to observe, which was helpful, because until you are in that environment, you have no clue what it's like. So I really appreciate local law enforcement letting us participate and observe. And it would be my goal that we would try to get all of our educators over the course of the next several years to observe one of these as part of their professional development obligation, because it's well worth it. We're trying to finalize a safety and security bond. We've been working on this the last several months. You know, we keep upgrading our facilities to make sure they're safe for our students, and so we'll be bringing something back to you here in the near future. You know, we've already invested millions of dollars in the last 6 years to help make our buildings safer, but, you know, we cannot stop. We have to keep our focus there. And then the metal detector wands, Governor Holcomb provided all school systems in Indiana with 1 wand for every 250 students in a school. So we qualified for 41 of them. We had to quickly put our order in. There's no cost to the school system, so we have ordered them. We should get them around mid-August, and we are working on an implementation plan, because to me that's something that we're going to really need to talk a lot about with our students and our parents and our staff and law enforcement officials. So we'll be using that district safety tactic team to help us, and also talk to our colleagues in other school systems, because whatever we're going to do, there should be a level of consistency in how they're utilized, because there's a lot more to that, potentially a lot of variables to consider. So that just gives you a bit of an update on some big facility projects as well as safety initiatives. And I don't know if you had any questions, but if so, I'd be happy to answer them.
That's good.
Any questions? Appreciate the update. Yes. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Next, I think we have a policy review. Scoutmaker?
Yes, actually, Board, no action taken at this meeting. I presented the first reading a couple of weeks ago, and they'll come to final reading, second reading here in 2 weeks for your approval. As a reminder, they're available in the executive content. If you read through them and have any questions, I provided the summary to Dr. Clayton, but you're more than welcome to reach out to me as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Now we have our budget report. Dr. Dykle?
Hello, Board. In the general fund, as you can see up there, in June, we collected $5.6 million, mainly all from state tuition support. We spent $6,150,000. Our cash balance at the end of June was $3,179,000, and we're projecting just over $1 million for the end of the year. In debt service, we collected $4.9 million in property taxes, $374,000 in excise, $40,000 in CVET, and $26,000 in FIT, and we spent $5.7. Our cash balance there was at the end of June $1,387,000. In the pension bond, we collected $642,000 in property taxes, $48,000 in excise, $5,000 in CVET, and $3,300 in financial institutions tax, and we paid out $630,000. We show a negative as of the end of June of $550,000 there. In capital projects, June, we collected $3.3 million in property taxes, $251,000 in excise, $27,000 in CVET, FIT is $17,000, and then local option income tax of $158,000. So we brought in $3.7 million, and we paid out $3.2 million. So, I'm sorry, we paid out $362,000, so our cash balance is $3.2 million there. Transportation operating, revenue property taxes of $2,482,000, excise of $188,000, CVET of $20,000, financial institution tax of $13,000, receipts from extracurricular of $1,122, and other overpayments, refunds, reimbursements. So we brought in $2.7 million in June. We paid out $385,000. So you can see our cash balance was $2.3 million. In the bus replacement plan, local property tax was $435,000, excise tax of $33,000, CVET taxes of $3,500, financial institution tax of $2,300. So we brought in $474,000. We paid out $48,405. So our ending cash balance there is $717,000 at the end of June. The rainy day fund had no income, but we still had some expenditures. So our cash balance there at the end of June is $4,479,531. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any comments or questions, board? Thank you. Now the annual financial report.
Yes, this is a report that we have to do per Indiana code. It'll be advertised in the newspaper. We show it to the board first. It has to be advertised between the 1st and the 15th. This is for calendar year 2017. Our budget's on a calendar year, so it shows all the receipts, all the expenditures by funds. It shows the top 200 vendors that we paid based on dollar amount. It shows salaries, hourly wages, how many certified, how many classified. It's a lot of good information in there. So there's no action required. I'm just presenting it to the board.
Okay. Any questions, board?
Thank you.
Okay, and now I think we're going to hear about the student clinic update. And is Ms. Stinkle here? Yes, there's.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We have statistics on the last quarter, but I think tonight I'll focus on the year statistics for 2017, 2018. And if you don't mind to go to the other one. Yes. Okay. Okay, it just looks different than mine. I was making sure it was the same thing. Okay, so as far as the number of students seen, that's one thing that we track. You can tell they're looking across at Jeff High. There was 590 students seen. At Charlestown High, there were 718 students seen for a total of 1,308. If you break that down in 6 students, it was similar to last year. The big difference for us this past year is that the clinic was performing sports physicals for students free of charge. So if you look at that, they performed 317 sports physicals. New patients, again, was about the same. We continue to see about half of the students are considered new patients, had not been to the clinic before in the past. They continue to send medications home with the students at the high school level and prescriptions to the students that are in the lower levels. They also do perform those limited lab tests such as strep and flu and those kind of things. This past year they did 87 flu tests, and they told me 53 of those came back positive for flu. So they were able to be seen there in the office, and most of them were started on some kind of treatment if that was in the treatment plan, if they caught it in time. They do continue to send summaries to parents and summaries to primary care physicians. About 20% of the kids and the parents report that the students do not have primary care physician, so they are coming to the clinic for their care. About 60% of parents are present because we have a big load of high school students that just come into the clinic. About half of the students seen are from the high school level, so they don't necessarily bring their parents with them. We continue to send almost half back to class. This shows 38% were sent back to class, and a part of that was because we did have so many that came in that were diagnosed with flu and strep. We can't send them back to class, so they have to be sent home. Some of the students, it's the end of the day and the parents choose to take them home. We did have an increase this year of students that came in from home. So the student woke up sick, They weren't able to go to school, and so they called and made an appointment at the clinic, and they came in for their visit there at the clinic. Sometimes the child is able to return to class according to the practitioner, but the parents had decided to go ahead and take them home. We did have some refers out. We had a couple for abdominal pain that referred to the emergency room just to make sure that there wasn't something going on, such as appendicitis. We had one small child that had an inflamed airway called croup that they sent out. Another child was having some severe coughing and was having some issues with that. And then there was a child with a seizure. They did send a couple to primary care, which was another level of care, one for a rash and one for a possible head injury. So, do you have any questions regarding the student clinic?
Any questions or comment, board?
I have a comment. As the mother of 4 son athletes, I know what it costs, and I appreciate that for parents. That's great that you're doing that. Because the time was an issue and the cost was an issue. So I'm glad we're able to do that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
We're pretty lucky, board, as you know, to have the partnership with Clark Memorial Hospital and to be able to provide that free health care through nurse practitioners. And so it's just another way we're trying to do something to help our students. So we appreciate that partnership.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you. I'm actually going to stay up here if you don't mind.
Yes, you are.
I'm going to provide a student health update. So I have a question a lot of time that asks, what goes on in the health office, and so my response is usually what doesn't go on in the health office. So I just wanted to provide some information for those of you that may not kind of know the logistics of it. Our health services staff consists of one supervisor, that's myself. We have 4 registered nurses. We have a registered nurse sub. We have 14 unlicensed health assistants, but 2 of those do have their certified nurse assistant certification. A variety of experience, our school nurses, anywhere from 10 to 28 years of experience. And we do break our groups up into clusters. Since we only have 4 school nurses, each school nurse is kind of in charge of a group of schools, and we call them clusters. So there you can see cluster 1 is Kelly Cardwell, and she's in charge of Charlestown High, Charlestown Middle, New Wash Elementary, New Wash Middle High, Jonathan Jennings, Pleasant Ridge, and Utica. And that's roughly about 3,200 students. Cluster 2 is Nola Garrison, and she is stationed at Jeffersonville High School. She also oversees Gordon Porter and Clark County Middle High, and that's roughly about 2,100 students. Cluster 3 is Diana Brown. She is stationed at Parkview. She also oversees Bridgepoint, North Haven, Riverside, and Maple. That's about 2,200 students. And then Lindsay Coombs, who's stationed at River Valley and oversees Parkwood, Springville, Thomas Jefferson, and Wilson, about almost 2,600 students. And I just wanted to bring about, as you wonder, how do we do it? We do have those unlicensed, those health assistants that help us. But if you look at recommendations, our National Association of School Nurses do recommend 1 nurse to every 750 healthy students. So we are working very hard. Our staff is very dedicated. If we could just move along. There we go. So we do have a new data management system, so the number might be a little skewed. This, I believe, may be a little higher than this, but I wanted to give the actual facts that I could find. Total visits in our health offices this last year was almost 100,000 visits. That's about 554 students seen per day, and that's about 20% of our student population who are coming into the health office for one reason or another. So I kind of broke it down into why do they come to the health office. So we have student screenings. We saw over 15,000 kids for illness, and that could be a stomach ache, headache, flu symptoms, whatever. First aid, which could be injuries, boo-boos, whatever. Over 10,000. Other, it could be bloody nose, broken flip-flops, whatever reason they decide to come in. That's about 9,800. So of those, we did send about 10% home because some of those kids are sick and they're too ill to go back to class. But about 90% we're able to return to class, which minimizes that loss of educational time, which is our goal. Chronic disease visits, this is something with our new data management system we're able to track better, and I will continue to track. But we do have quite a few diabetic students, and visits in the health office can be once a day, twice a day, 5 times a day. Some students don't necessarily have to come to the health office, but we saw 3,700 visits for diabetic care this last year. Vision screenings, we did 2,686 vision screens. Medication administrations, we administered over 23,000 doses of medication in the health offices. Parent contacts, over 34,000 parent contacts. And then our record keeping, which is mainly our immunizations. We do have an immunization record, hopefully on every student. If not, we've been calling and trying to get that. And we are right now about 75% compliant. The State Department of Health tells us what immunizations the students are required to have, and it's up to us to get them and document them correctly. We were about 90% compliant, which was wonderful. We have some new requirements, and so that's kind of dropped our numbers. Because now we have to go back and look at those again. And these statistics that I just went over do not include the student health clinic, because our health staff is making appointments for those students, so there's parent contacts involved and everything with that as well. So just some of the health office highlights, some things that kind of just come up in my head. We had a health assistant that immediately recognized when a student reported to the health office with an unusual painful rash. Students have rashes all the time, but she recognized that this was very painful for the student. The student was not able to walk correctly, and she contacted the parent and was like, look, I really can't tell you what this is, but I do know that something, is not right, and was able to follow our communicable disease policy and make sure that that parent was aware that she needed to have the child looked at, and it was an autoimmune response that the child was having, but he did get care. Another came in. This just kind of tells you kind of what, you never know what's going to come into the health office every day. Student came in from the car rider line and was not acting appropriately. So again, the health assistant did recognize that something wasn't right. The parent was contacted, and EMS was also contacted because this child was not responsive. He was not able to sit up on his own. He was not able to walk on his own. And so we really felt like there was some issue going on. They found out later that the child had been given some muscle relaxers prior to coming to school that day, and CPS was also notified. And the child was taken care of. There has also been several requests from parents to commend the school nurses. The school nurses have certain students that they have to oversee, and diabetic care is one. They can train the health assistants and other staff to take care of the students with diabetes. But in the buildings where the school nurses are located, the parents just really commend them on their care and the management of their care. And I did have a parent that stated that the child had come from homeschool, and the parent was very concerned that the child was not going to have the care that the mom was able to provide at home, but the school nurse was able to work with that parent and that student, and the parent was very, very glad of that. Also, we had a parent that requested, they had moved and they were going to have to transfer to a different school, and the parent put in for a transfer request to stay at that building because she liked the way that the nurse interacted with her child. And then a rapport with a student that has an altered communication skill, and the nurse was able to provide, to establish some routine care for that child. So some health services activities. We can move on to the next slide. Like I said, we have a new data management system called CareDocs. I was thankful for the IT to help along with that. And we continue to audit, support, track, document our immunizations. The Department of Education requires us to input all kindergarten, first, and sixth grade student immunizations into a registry program. And so we're constantly tracking and trying to provide that information. We do, because the Department of Education also requires us to provide vision screenings to all first, third, fifth, and eighth grade students and report on that as well. And first grade students require what they call a modified technique, and so optometrists actually come into the buildings, and we work with communities and schools to provide that service for them. We have in-school dental services by mobile dentists. I don't actually have statistics on that yet, but they do provide statistics every year. We continue to screen for communicable diseases. We purchase and distribute health office supplies. We house everything at Jeffersonville High School, and if one of the health offices needs something, they contact them and it's sent. American Red Cross blood drives are held at Jeffersonville High School and Charlestown High School, and maybe New Washington as well. But the information I have, depending on how many pints of blood is received, they offer scholarships for students. And Jeff High, not this past year, but the year before, was able to donate enough that they got 4 scholarships for students at $625 each. And this past year, 3 scholarships at $500 each. We also provide education to students, or we try to bring someone in to provide the education on topics such as orthodontics, dental health, hand washing, spread of germs, nutrition, exercise, and those kind of things. We do have 2 of our registered nurses that are also CPR instructors, and we provide certification for CPR and first aid to health services staff, SBS staff, our safety tactic team, which I have the old name up there, crisis response, and any other staff, the members that are interested, but they also, any teacher that is getting a new license or a change in license or renewing a license has to have this, and we can provide that service for them. For our school nurse, like I said, there's certain things that the school nurse has to do, and training for our students, the health of our students is one thing. Each registered nurse implements approximately 75 health and emergency plans. So you have a child that has a health need, they're going to develop a health plan, and they're going to share it and train staff members on that health plan. They also attend IEP 504 meetings for students with healthcare needs and upload that information into the Learning Connection IEP program. They provide training of medical procedures through delegation for teachers, para-educators, and designated staff to care for students. This can be your gastric tube feedings, catheterizations, trach care, colostomy care, anything that comes up a student needs, your school nurse is going to be there to help provide that training to the staff so they can be at school during the day. Also through delegation, the nurses train health assistants and designated staff on diabetes, insulin and glucagon emergency medications for those students, students with seizure disorders, including administration of emergency medication for them, asthma, including emergency medication for them, and then your severe allergic reactions and medications for them. Another thing, the school nurses are community preceptors for Indiana University Southeast. The preceptor agreement was continued, and the registered nurses serve as preceptor for junior nursing students. We always have a very good staff report and positive experience for the students and great feedback on that. We have them come in and provide some health teaching as needed. They're able to do their physical assessments, developmental assessments on the students. They can help assist in medications and procedures as we see fit. We also connect with Ivy Tech Community College, and theirs is more of a shadowing experience. The agreement's a little bit different, so they don't give medications or anything, but they do come in and assist with vision screenings, things like that. Something I'm very proud of was this year that I was able to get the School Nurse Administrator of the Year award, and that included the National Excellence in School Nursing honoree, which was at our national conference, and I was unable to attend. I was very proud of that. We continue to work with communities and schools to provide the optometrists for the first grade screenings in all elementary buildings. Completed year 5 of a 5-year grant from the Indiana State Department of Health for student wellness. This included staff training, it included pedometers for students, breakfast in the classroom coolers, outdoor and indoor recess equipment, and a program called Go Noodle Plus, which we'll hear about, I think, at another meeting. Continued certified school safety specialist through Department of Ed, member of the Clark County School Safety Commission, Clark County Health Department Medical Reserve Corps member, and myself and one of the other nurses were able to go to Utica and provide tetanus shots to the flood victims there. Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative Committee member, Admission Screening Committee member, IU Alumni Association Survey Panel member. We provide hepatitis B information and vaccine to our employees that have potential for occupational exposure, organizing flu shot clinics for employees, spouses, and dependents. We did organize our first hepatitis A clinic for employees, spouses, dependents, and we had about 300 participants in that, and they will be coming back in the fall to give the second dose. It's 2 doses required for that. And then staff training regarding potential student health issues to transportation employees and high ability staff. Another thing that I'm very proud of is School Nurse Leadership Academy. This is statewide. They received a grant to pilot a School Nurse Leadership Academy. There's approximately 50 members statewide, and the participants had to be a member of the state association. They had to be active school nurse or coordinator, and preferably a bachelor degree nurse. That we had 3 invitees from our corporation, which was myself, Nola Garrison, and Diana Brown. And also along with that, there was regional meetings, and we had a Southern Indiana regional meeting, and myself and Dr. Deichel were invited to present. And the topic was school nurse leaders and administrators working together to optimize student health, safety, and student success. So why do we do this? Because we're hired to be school nurses, but also just as educators have standards. Our school nurses, our nurses and school nurses also have standards of care. And as you can see from this is a framework that we're supposed to practice by. And in the middle there is students, keeping students healthy, safe, and ready to learn. That's our main focus, but we are surrounded by all these other principles. So the principles help us prioritize our activities and explain the various aspects. It's multi-leveled and can be adjusted to the needs of the students. So just to summarize, health services staff work with teachers, principals, family, community resources to provide optimal health for each student so they may reach their highest educational potential, have what they need to be college and career ready. We support student success by helping keep students safe and school ready to learn. And we know that maintaining the health and safety of students is critical to educational success and well-being of nation's children. And a quick funny, I wonder if the school nurse is missing me today because I haven't seen her yet and it's already 12:30. Are there any questions? Thank you. Sorry that was lengthy.
Teresa, board, it's just important to know, we have one of the best.
Yes, we do.
As you can see in this, and that goes not just for Teresa as the leader, but just you can see with the data, I think people don't understand all the work that is being done to try to help keep our kids safe. So Teresa, you and your staff have just done an awesome job, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.
Okay, next we have an academic update. Dr. Hartley's just going to provide that for us.
Good evening, board, and thank you, Teresa, because we have to have our kids safe and healthy so that we can focus on the academic piece. It is so exciting to be here tonight to talk to you about the work that has evolved in these 5 initiatives. They've been in place a couple of years, And as we reflected on the things that we wanted to present tonight, it really is exhilarating to see the work and how far we've come as a district and what we have accomplished. So I'm going to start to talk with you a little bit about our literacy piece. I oversee that in the district K through 12. We have a literacy tactic team that meets regularly throughout the year. And we build all of our work around the idea of cultivating knowledge through literacy for students to be strong readers, writers, but most importantly, thinkers. We want to bridge that excellence with opportunities so that literacy is the forefront of all of our efforts, and we are able to build strong foundational skills for our students to be successful in all content areas, because literacy is that cornerstone. With the tactic team, we have worked to create a balanced literacy framework that we feel is in place in 100% of our classrooms. That consists of a focus lesson, guided reading, word work, and an independent study. We have developed these goals around that framework. We want all of our students to be college and career ready. We want them to integrate writing and reading across all content areas. By doing those things, we are striving to increase the percentage of students who are reading and writing at or above grade level to 75%. We also wish to narrow the subgroups of the literacy achievement through all of our different demographics. We also hope to demonstrate growth in literacy as it's measured by the state assessment and accountability. The past 2 weeks, we've been hosting summer PD for our teachers, and they have come with smiles on. They're ready to learn. They've been very engaged. In literacy, we've offered subjects on word study. We've been working the last 2 weeks with Dr. Carolyn Gwynn, who has trained with Jan Richardson, who is a well-known author and done a lot of research and work in guided reading. She's been with us the last 2 weeks. Next week, we'll host some opportunities on purposeful work and the independent structure and what that looks like. And then we have a 2-day literacy framework, or a 2-day new teacher orientation that we will focus on the literacy framework and that guidance for our new teachers. Over the past year, we've developed several district resources in both literacy and numeracy. We have revised our quarterly assessments as well as a common learning check that will be across the district K through 12. We, in the past, have had an annual pacing guide. Kimberly and I worked with our 4 coaches, and we decided we wanted to really streamline all of our resources so there's more consistency K through 12. And we've taken our annual pacing guide and extended that to have an even better structure for curriculum support with a quarterly pacing guide and also a quarterly resource document that whether you're a brand new teacher or you're a veteran teacher, you have several links and lots of resources that we've provided as a district that correlate with our basal resources and adopted textbooks and lots of different technology resources. We have a literacy framework expectation guide, and our numeracy team has also created one for the numeracy piece. In numeracy, Karen Spencer leads that initiative for us and oversees the numeracy tactic team, and they have set some beliefs in place that they want every student to be able to reason with numbers and other mathematical concepts, and for students to be able to apply mathematical concepts using critical thinking in a variety of contexts and real-world problem solving. The goals in numeracy are they have developed the balanced math framework, which is fairly new for us, and they've continued to revise that. And one of their goals was that that would be in place in 100% of our classrooms. So this year with our numeracy coaches, they have worked very hard to provide that support, and feel like that has been accomplished. And their second goal is, again, to narrow the achievement gaps in all subgroups across our student populations, and also to demonstrate growth in numeracy as measured by our state assessment. And that will be shifting to the iLearn from iStep in the next year. The topics for the last 2 weeks, again, have been conceptual math, building those units in grades K through 5. They've had separate sessions for K through 2 and 3 through 5. We're thrilled to have Graham Fletcher with us on Thursday and Friday. We've had a huge participation with teachers. We have about 70 scheduled to attend with Graham on Thursday and another 70 on Friday. He speaks nationally to teachers. We first saw him at the Duke Summit, sponsored by Indiana State, and he agreed to come and work with our teachers on number sense and fraction concepts. So that's going to happen this week.
It's important. Fraction concepts.
I'll be sharing with you Pride and then also our Academy implementation and where we're headed with that for this year. With Pride, last year we were able to establish a school-wide evaluation team to make sure we were able to send people to buildings that they weren't currently staffed in to do what we called a Pride audit to see what the implementation rate was. And it was very successful for us last year. We plan to continue that. We performed those in September and then April. We also were able to let the schools do a self-assessment as soon as they came back to school, and then build whatever they said within that self-assessment into our support sessions that came after that quarterly for those particular Pride teams. I am happy to present to you the results from our September and then our April audit. The formula that we can use to decide what an average should be for our district would be an implementation rate typical for an elementary building is at 90% implementation. For a secondary building, it is 80% implementation, and that's just average. So if you put that formula to our district, we should have an 86% overall implementation rate. We were 4% below that in the fall, but with allowing the teams to do their self-assessment and then us guiding that professional development based on their need and then what our set scores showed in September, we were able to move to a 91.65, which now shows us 5.1% over what they would say a typical implementation rate would be for the structure of our district. So that was pretty exciting. We will continue, if you'll go to the next slide, Renee, we will continue with this same setup as far as having people visit buildings for audits so we can see where that goes this year and continue to support them with data-driven decision-making for our Pride committees. In order to do that, we are going to onboard some new team members to that evaluation team because we had a few leave. So we have to make sure and keep that team built up, and then also just bring them on board and make sure that they haven't forgotten how to implement the set with fidelity so that we're able to know that our scores are still meaningful. We are also going to incorporate the work ethic certificate components within that set this year. So one piece of that, when you go in, we do ask the staff and the students, one, if they're a part of the committee for Pride, and if so, we ask a couple additional questions to them. And then we will also ask the student if they're a 5th grader, 8th grader, or 12th grader. And if so, staff or student, then we'll ask them a couple additional questions about work ethic certificate and if they know what the components are and if they're receiving it or not. So that'll tell us where our implementation is there as far as during the questioning phase when we go out and actually do random questions of the kids and the staff in the buildings. Other than that, quarterly administrator and coordinator training will still include things from last year that they told us in May that they were still wanting, which is to align all the matrix across the elementaries, the middle, and the high. And that matrix includes student expectation. We will kind of venture into adult expectations also this year. That's something we haven't really done before, but as a part of that Pride program, so we'll want to do that. And then all the buildings told us they want Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention strategies, which will bring them this year. And then they also want to take that Pride rubric and do some additional norming. We did a little bit last year, but we found some gaps that we needed to attend to. Next initiative, that's one of our 5 important initiatives, would be the Academy rollout.
And I think you heard a lot from me a few meetings ago, so I'll kind of breeze through this one for you. We will be ready to do our 3rd year of Freshman Academy, and also all 4 academies will be in place fully when we come back to school in just a few weeks. And we will be monitoring that implementation with what we call a good, better, best rubric. Each school has written their own good, better, best rubric, depending on what progress they had made before. And that's simply deciding for our building what would be a good implementation for that component, what would be better, and what would be best. And then we'll relook at that and make our own good, better, best for the next year. Something we created here that everybody really feels comfortable with. We're also going to focus on highly effective teaming, and I am happy to present that we've had 196 teachers trained in highly effective teaming just this summer from our summer PD. So that's going to be really great when it comes to really putting that in place when we get back to school. The academies for the high schools will have their own dashboard, and it will be aligned to the individual academy need that the data presents for that academy, but also to our district dashboard. And we're going to monitor that particular piece on highly effective teaming with a specific rubric geared toward highly effective teams. We're also going to have our project-based learning piece in place in high schools and make sure that we do 1 interdisciplinary project per semester in each of the academies, and that's going to be monitored and supported by our coaches. We're going to have a creation of academy advisories, and Dr. Mellon's working on acquiring those particular business partners that will help us on those advisories, and they'll be organized and supported by the academy coaches. Student ambassadors were chosen and trained last year, and then they will also be ready to facilitate our opening day activities that I'm looking forward to, and all of our steering committee meetings, and also they'll be available to greet visitors in the building when we have them. Our middle schools will be doing student ambassadors also. Our high schoolers will be training them and getting those up and ready to go. They also will be focusing on highly effective teaming. They've been a part of that training this summer and in summers past. And they'll be ready to have their teams monitored by that same highly effective teaming rubric and a monitoring team. And when I say monitoring team, we're going to build a monitoring team much like the Pride team, where we'll teach a group of people to monitor, and then you have to go out and watch a meeting that's not in your building and give them feedback, and then they'll do a self-assessment of that same team meeting to decide how does our ranking of how we performed compare to an outside observer. And it's not punitive in any way, just simply able to give those pieces of feedback to set some goals for their highly effective team meetings. PBL, they also are going to do 1 per semester with their particular teams. And again, their school will be monitored by the good, better, best rubric that they've designed for each particular middle school. And it will only monitor those 3 areas because the middle schools do not have all 7 components. And we are going all the way down to elementary. And Dr. Mellon and I did find that there is not a school, correct, Dr. Mellon, in the Ford NGL network that has a K-12 implementation. So we will be the first once we get this up and going. This year, the elementaries have decided to implement student ambassadors. They also will be trained in September by the high school ambassadors. They are going to have a focus this year just on ambassadors. However, we are able to have a couple of the schools that were interested in learning more about highly effective teaming. They were able to come to a training that we held for middle and high during last spring. And so they will be piloting either grade level or BLT highly effective teaming. And we're going to allow them to pilot because next year in 1920, that will be the next initiative for the elementaries to take on. So student ambassadors will be set and they'll take on 1 additional. If an elementary teacher's had project-based learning, then we do ask that they go ahead and do a single content project with their kids if they've had the training so they stay sharp in that area. In year 3, which would be 2021, we'll be taking on project-based learning also with the elementary, so kind of a 3-year rollout for them. And they do have a good, better, best rubric written for the elementaries that will just judge their student ambassador rollout. Back to Kim.
And we are very enthusiastic to see what that looks like and for you to see our new ambassadors at work. And the last initiative that I'm going to talk about is the Harvard DataWise initiative, which is really the motor to everything you just heard. We utilize this collaborative data inquiry to really continue to reflect on the data, analyze it, and then create a plan. We not only look at what areas our students are having problems with, but we look at our problem of practice. And I think that's been one of the biggest eye-openers for all of us as we've learned and grown through this process. And then that's just a quick review of the 8 steps that we follow in our work. And this year, we've worked with Dr. Rob Westman. He's come in, he's done quarterly visits, he's done monthly Zoom visits, which is an electronic connection that we use. And from that work, many of our buildings, we had what we called our first cohort of model schools that he provided a lot of support to them. And so out of that work, our principals said, we want more support, because they found with just a little bit of work that they did, how helpful that has been, specifically with their building leadership teams. And so this year, we really want to work to expand that from our leadership teams into all of our grade level teams and throughout their building and other areas, departments of our district. So this year, we want 100% of our building principals to feel that support through the data-wise coaches in their buildings, and to engage in that process to improve student performance. We have embedded this work, the data-wise action plans, into our required Indiana School Improvement Plans. And then we're going to start our second cohort this year, which will consist of Charlestown High School, Charlestown Middle School, and New Washington Elementary School. We'll continue the support of our first cohort, but then we're going to add each year more schools to this process. The district team will review and plan with Dr. Westman monthly, and then he will be on site here for 3-day visits quarterly throughout the school year. And that concludes our initiative presentation, and we are excited to be greater together.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Lots of information for us to consider and be proud of. Thank you both.
Great job.
Great job.
Thank you.
All righty. Next is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, excuse me. Any comments or questions, please?
I have a question. At the bottom of item 8, consent agenda, it says items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member. So I request that number 6 be removed from the consent agenda.
You have to have a motion and a second.
Yeah, it doesn't say that. It just says that they can be removed at the request.
I'll ask our attorney over there. I'm pretty sure you have to have a motion and a second.
Well, it actually says that the items for approval of the board by a single motion, that generally for consent agenda items, but so you don't always have to have a second, but this one doesn't. It just says items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member.
I think what that's referring to is that we adopt all the items under the consent agenda J in one motion versus each individual separate item,
Right,
like
so-
1 through 8.
Right, so what does it mean, items may be removed from this agenda at the request of any board member?
I don't know, it says
Motion and a
Robert's
second.
Rules of Order requires to have a motion
Motion and a second. So that, I don't know, that's what I've always thought, so. Yeah. April, do you have anything?
Looking at it in just a moment. Just confirm.
My understanding of that, while she's looking this up, is in board
any board members can help with this, but my understanding was that since we do it as a clump, a grouping, and we have one motion, that within that process, if a member wants to request that one of these items be removed, then that would require a motion and a second. We would remove that, set it aside. That's what we've done in the past. But I will do whatever Ms. Geltmaker tells me to do. That's my understanding of Robert's rules, but I'm not an expert. Even without removing an item, you can still have a discussion on that particular item within the consent agenda. Yeah. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, about consent agenda.
Looking it up too.
So just break it out as a separate item. So I'm just going to have to break it out as a separate item. Fair enough.
All right. I stand corrected. Yes, you may remove that one item. And what item would you like to remove? Number 6. Okay. We will vote on the rest of the consent agenda because we have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor on the consent agenda minus number 6? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Now we will have discussion on item number 6. Do we need to have a motion and a
Yes.
second?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we need to have a motion and a second.
I will make that motion.
Okay, you have a second?
Second.
Now, discussion.
Well, I can start. I know after our public hearing last Tuesday, I went home and did some research on our former superintendent's contract, and I just wanted to remind our board and our public that when that contract came before us as a board, I voted against that, and I was the only one. Of course, I don't know none of the rest of you if you were here, but I voted against it because, for one reason, it was 125% of what is being proposed for this superintendent's contract, and he hadn't earned anything. You know, he had just shown up and had a 125% higher contract than what we're proposing tonight. So I thought about that, and then I thought about over the last 6 years, all the things that Dr. Mellon actually has done, in my opinion, as a board member to earn an increase. And I know there are other people who want to address that, but you know, if you just, something that's very important to me is the increase in participation for our kids in 21st century scholarships. That's huge to me. When you came, we were at like 3%, and now we're at 28. So that's very important to me. You made that part of your strategic plan, and that's just one reason out of a myriad of reasons why, you know, I feel like you have earned this increase in your pay. So that's what I'm going to say.
I think Dr. Mellon works very, very hard, and I know our teachers work very, very hard, and so do our staff members, and I think it's just a disproportionate raise, and there are just some other things missing, and you know, no one came to speak up for it, and you know, not that that's one thing or another, but I think it's just disproportionate and the wrong time.
Any other comments?
Moving right along. That's my comment.
I did have a couple of things to say because of the hearing we held, and as you know, we didn't speak and we didn't respond to the people who were speaking. So I'd like to do a little bit of response to that. One of the things that perhaps the public doesn't know is we had a deputy superintendent who left, and his administrative assistant left, and their 2 benefits packages left. And myself, I asked Dr. Mellon, were we not going to replace that? And he said, no, we're just going to take that work and put it on other people's desks. And a lot of it went to the superintendent's desk. Perhaps you knew that, perhaps you didn't. I also did a little bit of research, and we have provided 4 salary wage adjustments in the last 7 years that Dr. Mellon has been here. He's never asked for a salary increase in any of those years. We just finalized contracts with all of our employee groups for this year, except bus drivers, who we're still not finished with. That include salary and wage scale adjustments that are competitive in the market. Are they enough? No, but they're competitive. In total, we have allocated an additional $1.5 million this school year to increase salary and wages for our employees. One of the comments that was made was about health insurance. And, you know, we're all suffering from that. But something that you do need to know is that Dr. Mellon, I don't know how it was stated during the hearing, but it made me believe that some folks might think that he gets something in addition, or he gets all his paid or something. He does the same thing all the teachers do. He pays when the raise went up, when the cost of the insurance went up for family, his went up the same. Mm-hmm. Does he get a life insurance policy? Yeah. Most key CFOs get life insurance policies. And another comment that was made was about the car. And I did some snooping around. And by the way, this was as part of it wasn't just after that meeting, but after the hearing. This was part of the negotiations process. I want everybody to understand that. We did a lot of work on, I did a lot of work, not trying to pat myself on the back, but on comparing salaries and benefits in our area. Some of you probably know that I was an assistant superintendent in another school corporation, and I know what those benefit packages were, but I wanted to look at others, and I didn't want to support something that was out of line. It's a big deal's been made of his car allowance going up, and yes, it did, but what I want you to understand is that he does not get any gasoline. He has to put his own gasoline in, he has to buy his own tires, he has to, anything you and I would do with our own car. So that car allowance covers all that. That is not typical in other school corporations. When someone is given a car, they're also given gasoline, they're also given their insurance, they're also given a new set of tires. So this is really a little bit better, in our opinion. I did compare several school corporations, and if anybody would like to see that information, I'll be glad to share it with them. But just to add to what Ms. Gilkey said, in my opinion, this is well past due. Any other comments or questions?
Well, I've been here a little while, and actually I was on the team that hired Dr. Mellon. And when he came in, we had several schools on probation. Now all of our high schools are sitting as A schools. We had 4 superintendents in 5 years. So as you can imagine, the continuity was not there. There was no continuity. Every time a new superintendent came, the directions all changed again. We had no 5-year plan that I was aware of. We had no data dashboard. All of these things that Dr. Mellon has brought in, you know, I'm looking at the full body of work, not, you know, what his salary necessary is compared to everyone else. But, you know, it's a great story to tell. I mean, we could sit here and present facts and figures, but I'll just leave you with this. 4 superintendents in 5 years. So if you think you can get continuity in a school district with 4 superintendents in 5 years, it ain't going to happen. So Dr. Mellon's been with us for 6.5 years. You know, it's been steady as she goes, and it's been tough on him. It's been tough on his family, but he's made this. He's a change agent, and change agents, a lot of times, it's not a good place to be. But you know, he continues to steer the course, to set the direction, and he's got a lot of good folks underneath of him. So I expect that we'll continue to see this, and that's why I feel like that this is the right thing to do.
Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor of the superintendent's contract, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
All right, moving on to...
Can I mention?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course, I forgot. We have a consent agenda. We had some personnel that Dr. Mellon would like to introduce.
Thank you very much. Just for a second, we have some key positions that have been filled. Joe Quiz is here. Board, you'd approved him previously, but Joe comes to us from Elwood, Indiana. He's our new Director of Special Populations. Joe comes with the highest recommendations from his peers around the state. We're very lucky to have him on board. Joe, welcome to you and your family to this area. Thank you.
Welcome.
We also have another promotion within the district. We have Melissa Bauer is here, and Melissa, if you'd stand. Melissa was the assistant principal at Parkview Middle School for years. A rock, solid, steady, and she put her name in the hat for the Director of Technology and Academic Improvement, and won that day, and already has made a huge difference in the short time she's been in that role. So Jeremy Stewart, as principal of Parkview Middle School, I apologize, but on behalf of the rest of our district, Melissa Bauer, what a great addition to our central office team. So welcome to Melissa, and I know your husband is here, and family, at least one of your children, correct? Okay. So, oh, sorry. Thank you. And then lastly, we have a returning individual to our school system. We had to fill Melissa's role at Parkview Middle School as an assistant principal. I think we had 21 candidates that put their name in the hat and vied for it. I think 12 interviews were conducted. And by far the winner of the day is someone who had been working in our school corporation for many years, and most recently has been assistant principal at Silver Creek High School. And would you please welcome Amy Gilbert back to our Greater Clark family? Thank you.
Thank you.
great choices. Welcome. All right, back to our agenda. We don't have any gifts to buildings. Okay, you're right, Teresa. We didn't
Right,
have
we
any.
don't have
Yes. Now we go on to action items. Technology lease agreement amendment. Dr. Dykle? If you have young'uns and need to leave, we won't be upset. You don't have to stick it out.
Okay. Last board meeting, I came to you with a lease agreement for miscellaneous technology equipment, and after you had already approved it, I found out that there was an error. It was a transposition error by the bank, and it came to my attention. You approved $606,679.60. It should have been $660,679.60. So it was a transposition error by the bank. So we're asking permission to go with the new number, the $660,000. So
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we go with the 660,000.
Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Solman. Discussion? Questions? I think you answered all of our questions prior to tonight. Thank you very much for all that information.
Now I don't feel so bad when I make a math mistake.
In your check registry.
Right.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We have number 2 is the addition renovation change orders.
yes, for North Haven.
North Haven.
Yes, we have change orders 10, 11, and 12. Change order 10 will provide Cat 6 plenum data cable, and don't ask me what that is, which is an IT request, in lieu of Cat 6 riser and Cat 3 in lieu of riser cable. These changes constitute an addition of $6,922, which will be paid from the contingency allowance. The contract will remain the same. The contingency now has $3,034 in the balance. Change order 11 is to furnish and install power. This includes prepping door 3 for an electrical panic device. The amount of these items is $3,034, which basically wipes out the contingency now, and that was a maintenance request. And then change order 12 is the remaining cost for electricity not covered by change order 11. This is an actual decrease to the contract of $240. So 3 change orders.
You're a brave man.
Decrease of $240.
Okay, you're a brave man. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion toward North Haven Elementary change order 10, 11, and 12 action.
Second.
Discussion.
So they can't have any more.
We're done. Knew there'd be a comment. Okay?
Are we still within the contingency balance,
Barely.
Dr. Dykle?
It's zero.
Okay.
Zero. That's why I said they can't.
11 wiped it out.
So
Okay.
you understand, we understand each other, right? Okay, good.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next, we have a contract with Lincoln Crum Auctioneer Services.
Yes, we're getting ready to have our once every 2 or 3 year auction of all the good junk that we've been storing, and we're running out of room to store it. So we're asking to hire Lincoln Crum. We're going to do strictly a online auction,
Yes,
so that
good.
we don't have to worry about spending money, having the laborers move everything around, trying to put it to one particular site. Lincoln will go to all the different sites that we have, and it's listed here of all the different places that we have equipment, vehicles, things of that nature. He'll put it on the website. He gets a standard commission of 25%, then he collects a buyer's premium of 12%. There's also a filtering fee of $1,500 to make sure that we're only auctioning items of value, because we keep everything. We're like hoarders. The items of no value will be trashed. All marketing, video, pictures, advertisements, brochures, etc. will be produced by Lincoln Crum. He would like to start cataloging the items on August 1st through August 15th, with the auction going live as the catalog is being developed. The auction will be completed and settled by October 31st, 2018. The second proposal is for vehicles and surplus equipment. at Cordon Porter, Witten Center, Transportation, and Fetter Center. He's requesting a commission of 40% for surplus, 25% for vehicles, and a buyer's premium of 12%, and a filtering fee of $2,500 due to the quantity of items. We have a lot of items. The dates will be the same for both proposals. So we're asking permission to hire Lincoln Crum for this.
I'd like to make that motion that we hire Lincoln Crum for the auction.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do you have any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
There you go, Mr. Crum. See you back there.
I'll do you proud, I promise.
All right.
If you give me $3 million, I'll be happy.
No.
So all those cars that we talked about at the last meeting, they're all going to be in this auction?
No, those are Subarus. We cannot auction those off. There's like 9 Subarus now that we found agreements with. So I wrote a letter to Subaru in Lafayette, Indiana. That's where we received them from. And what they told me was we have to cut out the VIN number before we destroy it, and then we have to send them the VIN number of each of the vehicles. Once we do that, we're good. So we can go ahead and destroy it. We can't legally.
So this does not, his auction does not include those?
Correct. It does not
Okay.
include those.
All right.
There's maintenance vehicles that we have that we need to get rid of.
Thank you. All right, thank you. And now, adult breakfast price increase.
Oh, we got one.
Oh, there it is, right there. Downtown Elementary School Technical Review Committee.
Yes, we're going to go with the design build project again for the downtown elementary school. And we have many knowledgeable and talented staff members, community members, and parents in our communities. In order to take advantage of these resources, we recommend a technical review committee comprised of members from these groups to monitor the downtown elementary school construction project. The list of the proposed members is attached for your view. You want me to read them all?
No, we can see them. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the Downtown Elementary School Technical Review Committee as it stands.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion?
Who is, the only names I don't recognize are Tom Durkin and Bill Burns.
Tom Durkin is the engineer that Jamie Lake works with, and Bill Burns is from the Parks Department.
He's also a realtor.
Are you?
He's also a realtor.
Oh, yes.
He's also on our foundation board.
Foundation board, too, yeah.
And a parent of Greater Clark County kids.
And a parent, yeah, that's right.
That's important to be a parent.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Now we'll go to the last one.
Now we go to the one I was trying to get to, the breakfast,
Yes.
adult breakfast price increase.
At the May 1st board meeting, the administration presented an increase in meal prices for students and adults, but omitted the price increase for breakfast for adults. Currently, the adult breakfast is $2, and the state is recommending increasing it to $2.10. So we're asking permission to increase it.
Do you have a motion?
Just me.
Motion to approve the adult breakfast price increase.
Do you have a second? Second. Thank you, Teresa. Having a motion and a second, is there any discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
All right. Now we come to discussion items. We don't have any. Reports and requests. Anything from the board, a report or a request? All right. Public comments on non-agenda items. We have some tonight? Okay. Do we have them? Okay. Joanna Polk. If you'd come to the podium, Joanna. And, oh, I'm sorry.
That's why most people just call me Joe.
Okay.
I did want to pass these.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you would state your name correctly and give us your address, please. And you have 3 minutes, and she will let you know when you've got, what, 30 seconds to go? Yeah, there. Oh, it's up there too. Okay.
My name is Johanna Polk. People refer to me as Joe. And I wanted to...
Your address, please?
I'm sorry?
Your address?
Oh, my, like, physical address?
Yes.
Oh, 504 Creek Road, Jeffersonville, Indiana.
Thank you.
So, and I wanted to talk briefly on the proposed limited transportation zone. I do want to thank the board for allowing me to speak tonight, but my original concern for the first proposed plan was for the safety of the children in the identified areas. When I went online to view the live stream video, all audio went silent, so we really couldn't get very much out of the PowerPoint. Then I went to the links to check out the research, and I found it to be uninformative and just lacking of anything pertinent to the plan that was suggested. So the areas many of the students would have to walk to and from doesn't have the infrastructure to get them safely to and from school. Lack of sidewalks, lighting, crosswalks, speed limits in that area were all a big concern. Another concern was the time frame in which this was to be implemented. Most parents need more time than 3 weeks prior to the school year to have alternate means of transportation for their children. With that being said, it does appear that the school has taken feedback from the public and from the community and took these needs into consideration. I believe that changing the no transportation zone to a limited transportation zone is a good compromise and will be a better fit for the needs of many families. I cannot speak for all families because each family has different expectations and needs. So I did still want to give you all a little bit of, this is not all, but a little bit of the research. So the first document is a letter directed to the school board from the Clark County Health Officer, Dr. Eric Gazel. He has expressed his concerns for the proposed school plan and requests that adequate stops are in place for students that will shelter them from extreme elements during this time. He is also asking that the public have input. The second is a fact sheet from the Greater Clark County website showing that school buses are the safest way to travel. And the third document is from Fort Wayne Community Schools, where they implemented a no transportation zone and gave several months of information to the parents and the students. So I just wanted to thank you for your time, and again, thank you for addressing our safety concerns.
Thank you very much. Next, I think we have Angela Onlyhouse. Angela? Oh, I probably butchered your last name, didn't I? We'd like your name and where you live, your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay. I am Angela Ollinghouse. I live on 511 Presley Lane in Jeffersonville. I wanted to address the bus situation with all of you. I appreciate you giving me the time today to speak. My first frustration is that we found out through social media. There was no communication whatsoever to the public. I think that's really sad. I did find out recently that this had been a topic of conversation amongst the board as recently as April and May. So why did the public just hear about it just recently? I also had called the administration building to find out, some more information as to what was going on, and I was told, well, this was on the agenda. So if it was on the agenda, you could have come. First of all, it's summer. Who thinks about school during the summer when you have children? We're out on vacation, we're out trying to have a good time with our families. We're not thinking about the agenda and coming. I think it should have been made known more to the public. Safety is first. That's often a model that we hear with the Greater Clark County schools, but Sure, let's let them walk in the dark. There's pedophiles out, there's traffic concerns, there's speed limit concerns. What about when there's snow and ice? You know, what happens then? Instead of worrying about cutting transportation, why don't we leave it alone the way it's been the past several years? Let's focus on keeping kids safe while they're in school. They shouldn't have to worry about having a gun pulled on them while they're out of school. I know you talked about wands and things earlier, but how are you going to scan every student? That is a huge concern. My child has asked before, am I going to get shot today? I don't want to go to school today. I do appreciate that there has been a compromise made. However, how do we know that this is going to be made in the future? You may decide next year, you may decide in December, this isn't really working. Let's cut the bus stops for Jeff High. Let's make the no transportation zone bigger. Maybe you'll do it for middle school next year, maybe elementary school. The trust has been gone. I used to stick up for you guys. I used to stick up for the superintendent, but I feel like the trust is gone. You took that away from us. It has been noted that there was loss of sleep about making the decision. What about us when we were trying to make that decision? What are we going to do? We need an alternate route. I don't want my kid walking in the dark in the wintertime when it's cold and snowy. What about the rain? Why not start River Valley School 15 minutes later and keep Jeff High routes the same as they have been? Why should they have to wait for a bus an hour before school starts? Did several drivers quit last year? What happened? Why is there a shortage? There's also proposals that new subdivisions will be built. I don't know a whole lot about that. However, well, what happens for those kids when they need transportation? Why can't we add more drivers? Why don't we up their pay? If there's a problem with getting bus drivers in, up their pay. As a matter of fact, let's up teachers' pay, paras pay, etc. Let's make it more than a couple percent. I feel like everyone deserves a raise at this point in time, except the superintendent. Perception is very real. It may be different what goes on behind the board's closed doors or what is in a contract, but so many things feel wrong right now with the school board and Greater Clark County. Trust me, it will not be forgotten come election time. Thank you for your time.
Okay, well, now we come to our board comments. Board members, do you have any comments you should make tonight?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I do as well when she's done.
As to your comment about bus drivers, I drove one for 31 years, and we said, people aren't going to want to do this anymore. 66 people behind you, and you're disciplining through a mirror. That is not easy. We can't get people to drive buses. They don't want to do that. So if you all have any friends who want to drive a school bus, let us know, because they're not out there. And that's a real problem. It's nothing we've done. We predicted that. I had perfect kids, so my bus was different. Yeah, right. But we can't get people to do it.
And we're paying $20+ an hour. So.
For experience. For experienced drivers.
It's a tough job. A teacher standing in front of the class most of the time. You're disciplining through a mirror. That's not easy. They used to say, how'd she hear that? And I would say, because I have 6 of you at home and I listened. So it's not an easy job.
Other comments?
I'm sorry that you guys couldn't hear the audio at the board meeting with the no transportation zone. I brought that to our superintendent's attention. I'm not sure what happened, but I voted against that because, you know, you guys are my neighbors. I know the neighborhood. I know some of the security concerns. I know where the new sidewalks are built. I know where the sidewalks aren't built. And so, you know, bringing all those concerns up is the reason why I said no that night. I do want to commend the superintendent and the transportation director for getting together after I made those comments and brought those concerns forward, because they did take what I said to heart. They did go out and talk to Rusty and some other law enforcement. I think they've talked to the mayor. So as a result of a conversation, we got a new zone. And I'm very pleased with the new one, much more so than I was not pleased with the old one. So I just want to say thank you for listening, Dr. Mellon, to the concerns. It was a done deal. It was a yes vote. Didn't have to have more conversation, but you did. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Any other comments tonight? No? Okay. Do I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Mellon has a comment.
Board, just want to let you know I'm very appreciative of the board believing that I'm deserving of a new contract. It's nice to know that you are understanding of the commitment I've made to the district over the past 6 years and my desire to help make Greater Clark one of the best school districts in our region and in the country. All of our accomplishments have only been possible because of our support, because of your support and the dedication of over 1,400 staff members, teachers, support staff, and administrators. So I greatly value and appreciate that. I also appreciate you as a board recognizing the job that there are 290 of us in the state that do this job. It's a job that we choose to do. We're not forced to do it, but it is a 24/7, 365 responsibility that I've accepted. But unfortunately, along the way, my wife and my children have been sacrificed, and there's a sacrifice to their husband and their father's time, and that's a choice that I made. But my wife and my children are also people I value and care about greatly, and they have been understanding of the time commitment. So I just appreciate you understanding that, and I love my wife and children very much, and appreciate that. The past 6 years have seen a very positive improvement in many academic and operational metrics, which I think you saw a little bit tonight, but we have more work to do. And I just promise to do everything in my power to give 100% of myself to accomplish the mission that we set out 6 years ago. All students accepted to a post-secondary opportunity. And we're going to also work very hard. We have given increases in pay to every job classification this year. And we have worked hard to be competitive to the market, and I continue to promise them and you that I will continue to put them at the forefront. And then also, I'll continue to work with all of our community stakeholders, because we have a lot of great people throughout our community that have supported all the work that we're doing, and maybe not everyone fully agrees all the time with certain decisions that I make or that you support. But I can always promise you this: I do care about our children, I care about our school system, I care about our community, and I'll continue to dedicate my time and effort to that for the rest of the time that I'm superintendent of Greater Clark. So just thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just bring up one little thing?
Well, yes, ma'am.
I really have been puzzled by why in the world we have to go and ask everybody and tell everybody about one person's salary, when there are all these people who work in this county who are on public funds, and they don't ever have to go before the public to ask for a raise or to ask for pay, period. I haven't quite figured that out. Why would that just be school? Or why would that just be Greater Clark? I've never seen it in the paper for Albany or West Clark, or, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
It just seems strange to me, because other people are supported by tax as well, and nobody fusses about how much those people make.
It's very similar to the difference in the referendum piece.
Yeah.
Where we have, school corporations have to enter into a referendum,
Right.
whereas other taxing entities do not.
So it's also very similar to, why do our teachers' unions get limited conversations about what benefits they can fight for when no other unions have
that.
limited conversations? Kind of sounds like a war on schools to me, but I'm just saying.
And to threaten us and say, we'll get you at the polls. I say, come on, you want to run? It's fine here.
Tough job.
And I want to say before we leave, thank you to the Boy Scouts for coming and being so patient to sit there. Thank you. You're fine board.
Thank you. Any other comments? I will entertain a motion for
motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?